Hello everyone, I'm Autobot Sonic, the Telltale Gamer, bringing you the latest on everything Telltale games, Transformers, and more. So for today, I've got some very exciting news regarding The Walking Dead: A New Frontier. Now, by now, I'm sure you've all heard about how Episode 3, Above the Law, is coming soon. Well, we no longer have to wait any longer because Telltale has announced that the third episode of The Walking Dead: A New Frontier, Episode 3, Above the Law, will be coming tomorrow, March 28th, for Xbox One, PS4, PC, iOS, and Android devices. So, and we also got this nice little key art right here of Episode 3, in which we have what appears to be Javier, David, Clementine, and Jesus, all surrounded by a bunch of walkers. So I'm just going to go into this first. Well, there's something really, interesting about this. I mean, the fact that David takes up the majority of this indicates that, of course, since we found out at the end of Episode 2, Ties That Bind Part 2, that David is the leader of the New Frontier, that he's going to be playing a major part, if not be the main antagonist of the game. We see Javier using a metal baseball bat, which is funny considering the fact that Javier was a baseball player prior to the zombie apocalypse. But what's really interesting to me is behind Clementine and the Walking Dead logo is what appears to be, looks like the inside of what remains of a church of some kind. Like, you see these stained glass windows and then the New Frontier logo in this red drape hanging around it. So it looks like maybe a church is the main base of operations for the New Frontier inside of Richmond. I'm not sure, but anyway, Telltale also released a summary for Episode 3 Above the Law, which I'm going to read to you all right now. After the shocking events of Ties That Bind Part 2, Javier struggles to find a role in his newly reunited family. Meanwhile, tension within the walls of Richmond grow. Will Clementine and the rest of the group turn against Javier? It may be time to choose between the family you're born into and the family you've made. So to me, that kind of falls in line with what the actual in-game description of The Walking Dead of Episode 3 is, in that if I remember correctly, it was like tensions rise between brothers in arms. So basically, that's what it's going to be about. Basically, probably Javier reunites with David, and he's happy to see him. And so whole thing's about maybe Clementine, everyone else is like, oh, you know David, so how do we know you're not a spy for a New Frontier or something? And Javier's like, I had no idea this was going on. So that's what I think is going to happen. But along with this, Telltale also released not one, but 2 videos about Episode 3. The first one was shown off exclusively at PAX, which was later then shown online a couple days later. And then we got the official launch trailer for the episode. And we're going to be going over both of those clips and see what we can learn from them. But first off, I'm going to be playing the PAX exclusive trailer just for all of you right now.
Ever since the junkyard, you've been nothing but a fly in my ointment.
Cool.
You know what you did! You killed that little girl! Mari! You brought this on yourself, Badger. This is for Mariana. You had it coming a long time.
Hello again, Clementine. He stays.
You monsters! No!
Alright, so the trailer starts off with kind of like a recap of what happened at the end of Episode 1. Basically, it's Badger supposedly talking to Javier, basically saying how much he hates him, and that everything was perfect until they came along. But then it's whole thing about Javi getting all pissed off at him, saying that, oh, he killed Mariana and stuff like that. It's all it is really just a recap until we get about maybe 20 or about 30 seconds into the trailer. We get this with the primary part of this sneak peek is it looks like it's Javier breaking into this sort of industrial place. Kind of reminds me of the Crooked Man's headquarters at the end of The Wolf Among Us. So Javi's got this metal baseball bat that we saw in the key art trailer, and we see him confronting Badger. He's got a double-barrel shotgun, kind of like the one Norma's people used in The Walking Dead was shown. And so basically we get this, it's just a fight between the two. They end up fighting, and it looks like at the end of it, it gets really interesting, because to me it looks like Javi's gonna go full Negan on Badger and just bash his brains in, which I am very, very looking forward to. And so after that, the the title card shows up that says, oh, Walking Dead New Frontier Episode 3 coming March 28th. But before the release date is confirmed, we get one last, like, 10-second clip of what appears to be David and Clementine in some kind of, I want to say, another industrial room. This could be the same place where Javi and Badger are. Like, maybe while Javi's dealing with Badger, Clementine's dealing with David. So, obviously, due to the fact that David calls Clementine by her name, we know that David knows Clementine. And then, after that, we see this really quick clip of David, surprisingly, Ava, who was the girl that, recruited Clementine into New Frontier in the Episode 2 flashback, and several other, who I assume to be are several other members of New Frontier, apparently taking AJ away from Clementine, and maybe they kick Clementine out of the New Frontier. Now, if you look closely at AJ's face here, you see he's not looking too good. He's very pale. It looks like he may be sick or bitten, like, because when Kate was shot at the end of in Episode 2, her skin was quite pale like that, so it's most likely, I don't think AJ got bitten. I think he's probably just sick, and maybe David doesn't think that Clementine can take care of him, so maybe in lieu of, this is what I think happened, is that since this is most likely a flashback of what happened, probably David, thinking that Gabe and Mariana, his kids, are dead, he decided to take AJ from Clementine and raise him as a substitute for Gabe and Mariana, so he doesn't want to fail AJ like he failed Gabe and Mariana, basically what I'm trying to say. And that's all there is to it, except for the one shot we see of David looking at Clementine as she's screaming for him to give AJ back. If you look closely on David's neck, he doesn't have the New Frontier logo yet on his neck. So I guess this could be like right before they started the whole initiation thing. Maybe this was even before the New Frontier became a thing. Maybe like they were just a survivor group and David let Clementine in. But then, when he decided to start the New Frontier after he kidnapped AJ, they started this whole brand thing. But that wouldn't make sense as to why would Clementine have the mark on her arm then if David didn't already have it on his neck? I guess this could be like a developer oversight or something, or maybe the image is flipped so we're really seeing the unbranded side of David's neck, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that's all there is to tell from the PAX trailer. Now we're going to take a look at the official launch trailer Telltale released last week, which has a lot more information in it.
Tell me how it happened. How did she die?
She was just standing there, minding her own business. And then someone put a bullet in her head. An animal with your mark.
I'm scared, Javi. Everything inside me screams to get away from here. This place. It's a cage.
Hope you know I'm not about to make nice with New Frontier.
As soon as I get a moment alone with David, I'll get to the bottom of this.
Clementine, you were part of the New Frontier. Did you know David?
I knew him.
You're done here.
He's not a good guy.
He stays.
You monsters! No!
I'll take care of my family from now on.
This is a send-off? You're just seeing me on my merry way.
I don't see another way.
This is what David circled on the map.
I think these came from Prescott.
There's stuff here from the kingdom, spoils from other towns here too.
Don't make me do this. You should be more careful with this.
Alright, so the trailer starts off with, we get basically a whole outlook, like, overview of what the New Frontier's base looks like. We start off with this giant, what looks like to be some sort of unfinished skyscraper in between this highway. We see it has the New Frontier's banner draped right over it. And over this we see, we hear David talking to Javi. He says, tell me what happened to her. So obviously this is when David finds out that Mariana's dead, and so Javi's explaining to him what happened. So now here we get this one shot of Javi and David. Looks like to be in a center of New Frontier. It looks really peaceful. You see this one like praying statue draped over with like the American flag. You see a bunch of children running past him. It looks to me a lot like where you start off The Last of Us, or actually it also reminds me a lot of Woodbury from the TV show, which is where the governor lived and where he was in charge. So basically it starts with that. David is talking to Javi again. Another interesting thing to point out here is, well, like I said in the PAX trailer, unlike the PAX trailer, David does have the mark on his neck this time in that spot. So that means either in the PAX image the image was flipped, or he actually didn't have the mark at that time. So during this, basically just Javi still talking to David about how Mariana died, basically how Badger killed him. Now what I'm imagining is what could possibly be is that maybe because of this, David kicks Badger out, but he doesn't think that's enough, so maybe, no, I don't think he would kick Badger out. Badger just decides to make a run for it, and David has Javi go kill him, probably. That's what I think he's gonna do. And then, after that, we get this scene of, Kate talking to Javi, basically saying how she's afraid. So this kind of, ties into what, we had in the episode 2 flashback in the very beginning of episode 2, in which we saw, how Kate seems to be in sort of an abusive relationship with David, the fact that she lets him boss her around and such. We also get some more nice shots of the New Frontier space. We saw that one shot of looks like to be in a church, as the key art showed, with the New Frontier logo draped over. We see Javi talking to Kate in this makeshift hospital ER room, which kind of reminds me a lot of Crawford from The Walking Dead Season 1, where Lee and Krista and Vernon were breaking into the medical room to get Omid medical supplies. It reminds me a lot of that. So, and then after that, we get this shot of Trip, Jesus, Javier, and surprisingly Eleanor in the shot. So this confirms that, in fact, Eleanor was captured by the New Frontier at the end of episode 2. We know where she is now. So apparently, Jesus, Javi, Trip, and Eleanor are in this room. They're talking about stuff, and Trip's basically pissed off about the fact that he doesn't want to work with the New Frontier. And then after that, we get this really, really weird shot of Ava just knocking Trip the fuck out outside the gates of the New Frontier. I don't know how like, Ava can knock a guy like Trip out, but hey, I don't know. Maybe she's stronger than she looks, I guess? So, anyway, that happens. We then see Javi talking to Trip saying, oh, just let me talk to David, I can get through to him. We get this shot of Javi and David inside what looks like a church. To me, this reminds me again a lot of Fear the Walking Dead, in which towards the end of the first half of Season 2, they go to a plantation, and on the way to the plantation, they run into this church where like all the people committed mass suicide there or something like that. It reminds me a lot of that. So, anyways, after that, we cut back to the holding facility. It looks to me a lot like Carver's office from Season 2 in the house. We see Eleanor, Trip, Javi, Jesus, Conrad, and Clementine. So now, because of Conrad and Clementine, we know this is what happens if you chose to give up Clementine to Conrad instead of killing Conrad at the end of episode 2. So during this, Jesus goes to Clementine and basically just tells her, oh, what's happened here, because we know you're part of the New Frontier and stuff. And then we get a shot of Clementine showing her mark again to Javier and Jesus. I don't know why. Maybe she runs into someone else, and she needs to explain to them that she's part of the New Frontier. And she's like, oh, and Javi's like talking to Clementine, like, oh, do you know David? And after that, we get this shot of Javi talking to David and surprisingly Ava. So it looks like the way that David seems to be interacting with Ava seems to imply that David really values Ava. Maybe almost Ava is David's right-hand man or something like that. Or maybe like just like how AJ is most likely going to be a replacement for Gabe. Maybe he's thought Ava could be the Mariana that he never had, since he thought she died all the way back when the apocalypse started. So he kind of took her in as his daughter and stuff like that. After that, we get another shot of Clementine and AJ being attacked by David and the rest of the New Frontier. Now, the interesting note here that didn't happen in the PAX trailer is David says, you're done here, before he says to AJ, he stays. So apparently Clementine does something that David doesn't like, so she gets kicked out of the New Frontier. But because, like I said, the whole thing is that he's trying to use AJ as a device, like a substitute for Gabe and Mariana, he doesn't want Clementine to leave with AJ, so he has Ava and the rest of them take over AJ. So you can see right here, we see David holding Clementine back as Ava takes away AJ, who still looks very sick. And then you see that he throws Clementine away, and so on. After that, we get this really weird scene of, looks like David and Gabe sparring or something inside the hospital with Kate and Javi. Now, obviously, Gabe is probably really happy to see that his dad's alive and such, and he's probably gonna side. I bet this is gonna be like, oh, that now that Gabe's back with his father, or is Gabe not gonna be so kind to us? Is he gonna be more of a dick now? Is he gonna be more like just kind of like become more rage-induced because David's teaching him to be like that? So, and that's it. And so then after that, we hear Javi talking to David that basically that he's kicking them out or sending them on their way. We see this shot of Clementine, Jesus, Conrad, Tripp, and Javi being held up by two members of New Frontier as they are supposedly kicked out of Richmond. So now, I assume if you chose to kill Conrad, he and Clementine wouldn't be here, so it would just be Javi, Tripp, and Jesus. Now, the reason why Eleanor is in here is probably because David needs Eleanor to look after Kate, and obviously he's not going to kick his own wife and son out, so Gabe, and because we've seen from the episode 1 flashback, and even the episode 2 flashback, that David doesn't really like Javi. So, I guess what's going to happen is that maybe this is, I bet depending on how you chose to react to their, David and Kate's argument in the episode 2 flashback, maybe, like, this could be different. Maybe if you were a dick to David in the episode 2 flashback, he actually kicks Javi out, but if, you were nice to David, maybe he instead just has them go out on a mission or something, because as we see in the next shot, we see the shot of Jesus, Clementine, Tripp, Javi, and probably Conrad to outside this warehouse, which could be the same warehouse that Badger fights Javi in. We see Javi armed with a metal baseball bat. We still don't know how he got it, though. And Javi says this is the place David marked on the map. Now, one thing to note here is in this shot of Javi, Jesus, and Tripp, next to Tripp, we see this warning or be careful sign. This is important as this is actually where Clementine and David fight each other in the PAX trailer. Because if you remember, go back to the PAX trailer, you see the same sign behind David. So, there's that. And then after that, we see in the same room, we now see Javi, David, Tripp, and Jesus looking at various supplies in this warehouse. So, it could be possible this is where Clementine's, like, forced to begrudgingly work with David, and maybe at one point she just can't take it and tries to kill David. Maybe that's it. I believe that if you chose to kill Conrad, this will be where Clementine meets up with Javi and everyone afterwards. Otherwise, she's with them for the rest of the episode. So, anyway, they're looking through this, and then we hear Jesus say that they have stuff from Prescott here, as we see through this one box. We see this property of Prescott Airfield. But then what's interesting is that he also says that there's stuff from the Kingdom and other towns. Now, if you're a fan of the Walking Dead comics or TV show, you'll know that the Kingdom is where Ezekiel lives and is one of Rick's major allies alongside Alexandria and the Hilltop where Jesus comes from. So this is probably tying into how Jesus is in A New Frontier, and as we heard back in episode 2, Jesus is looking for some people that he lost contact with when the New Frontier took over. So now we know why he's there. So basically, we see this shot of, looks like two walkie-talkies and a bunch of a type of first aid kit, and so we see the shot of Clementine looking pretty, like, disturbed or something like that. So maybe, like, she was forced to steal from other towns, and so she regrets doing that now. Maybe that looks like a moment to me where there would be another flashback. Anyways, we then see the shot of Jesus, David, Javi, Clementine, Tripp, and Conrad looking at something. It could be walkers, something else. After that, we see the shot of Clementine aiming her gun at someone, saying, "Don't take another step," or something like that. Now, if you look closely, this is actually the same spot where she was confronting David in the PAX trailer. So most likely she is aiming her gun at David here. And maybe, I believe this is what happens if you chose to kill Conrad, at which point Clementine comes back. She has no idea why David's there, and so she's getting ready to kill him. And then Javi's like, "Wait, Clem, you can't do that. He's my brother," and stuff like that. Anyway, but what's really interesting, though, is after that, we see Javi putting his hands up as he's about to leave through a door. So is Clementine really going to turn on Javi? Could this possibly be maybe if you act too nice towards David, Clementine will start to show distrust in Javi, and then maybe if you act like a dick towards David, maybe Clementine will be more friendly towards him. After that, anyways, we again get this a couple quick shots of everyone battling walkers. We see this epic shot of Jesus throwing a tomahawk right into a walker's face. We see this one shot of what looks like Conrad like trying to squeeze under some garage door as a bunch of walkers converge on him. So I'm betting this is probably where Conrad dies if you chose to let him live at the end of episode 2, because knowing how Telltale kills off the tournament characters. But we get more shots of just Jesus drop kicking 2 walkers out of a door, Javi smashing Badger's face against a balcony, just like in the PAX trailer. This epic shot of Jesus cutting off his walker's head with a tomahawk. And then we get probably the funniest scene in the entire clip is Clementine going full Negan on 2 walkers with Javi's metal baseball bat, which is a nice callback to Season 1, Episode 5, in which Clementine's first walker kill, in which Lee helps Clementine beat a walker to death with a wooden baseball bat. So it's a nice comedic callback to that, of Clementine basically beating the shit out of these 2 walkers with a metal baseball bat. And then we just get this little funny thing with Clementine giving the baseball bat back to Javi, and that's the whole trailer. And that's pretty much all I have to say for this about The Walking Dead: A New Frontier Episode 3, Above the Law. I am super stoked for it. Once again, the episode comes out tomorrow, March 28th, for Xbox One, PS4, Android, iOS devices, and other stuff. So are you guys excited? If you like, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later.